All right, welcome back again. We've seen chaos in Tanzania recently because of post-election violence, and it started because the president and the existing regime did not want to reform. The opposition was demanding for reforms, and they were saying that no reforms, no elections. For years, we've known Tanzania as a peaceful country, a country where people didn't know how to fight, they didn't know violence, and they always responded to the government calls. Every time they were called and every time they were directed, they used to follow because they were known as a country that is peaceful, okay? But what happened in Tanzania, Tanzanians were being oppressed without knowing they are being oppressed. That is why I always say, it is very bad when you are naked and you don't know that you're naked. You're naked, but you can't realize that you're naked. But it's good when you're naked and you know that you're naked. Tanzanians thought that they were peaceful, but they were not really. They were peaceful simply because they didn't know they were being oppressed. They were naked. They didn't know they were naked. So they were walking around people, going to the crowds without clothes, naked. But their nakedness couldn't terrify them because they did not know they were naked. They didn't realize their nakedness. But right now, the moment they realized they were naked, they tried to fight. They tried to struggle to get clothes. They tried to struggle to cover themselves, to cover their nakedness. And that is what has been happening to Tanzania for a very long time. It is not that Tanzanians were peaceful. It's because Tanzanians did not know that they were very much behind. They didn't know they were being oppressed, okay? But people who are, their eyes and their minds are open just came out and proved to them that, you are living in an era that passed a long time ago. And therefore, there should be a new era in Tanzania. When Hassan was about to vie for the presidency, people were like, there was a certain awakening in Tanzania that made Tanzanians not just to agree elections without reforms, and the oppositions were with the narrative of no reforms, no elections. And everybody realized we have been oppressed for a very long time. We are living a life that we are looking like slaves in our own country. And they decided, now, from this moment, we are not going to allow anything of the sort happen. So what we're going to do, we are going to fight back, we're going to struggle, and we're going to make sure that we have a new constitution in Tanzania, a constitution that cares for a common mwananchi, a constitution that takes care of people, a constitution that really respects the views and does not violate the rights of a common mwananchi. And they started fighting back. The government was not ready to take the fights. The government was not ready to actually give them a room for them to be able to fight for themselves. So what the government did, the government decided to fight back. And a lot of people died, a lot of people were killed. The international bodies had eyes on Tanzania, ICC, and many other international bodies like UN and many others. Some other international bodies tried to behave, it's like they don't see what is happening in Tanzania, including even the African Union, that the chairman, the name is this man, how is he called? This a Djiboutian guy, yeah? He tried even to congratulate the Tanzanian elections, and he said that the elections were free and fair. You can see that, yeah. It's a very shameful move for someone like that to actually do. You see, and after that, we saw bodies like SADC saying that elections were not free and fair. You see, and that is when now the African Union felt like, what we are supposed to do is also to criticize and to go against what has happened in Tanzania, because we will have just stained ourselves for nothing. And so they decided also to come out and say that after an overlook into this matter, we have realized elections in Tanzania were not free, neither were they fair. Okay? Now, the president was ashamed, and everybody expected that the ICC now will take position and come in because evidences are clear. Okay, we've seen the dead bodies in the streets. We've seen the dead bodies overflowing in the hospitals and in the mortuaries. We've seen the mass graves. People are being buried even without their families knowing that they were being buried. To just try and cover the evidence. Right now, the president of Tanzania has a boldness of coming out on the media and saying that, people who were demonstrating and people who were looting in Tanzania were people who had been paid. They had been paid. They are not people who are fighting for their rights. They are people who had been paid. And the question she's asking is that, where was the money coming from? The money that was that those people are being paid, where was that money coming from? And he's saying that those youths who are demonstrating should come out today and say which rights were they fighting for, so that she can be able to give them rights, their rights that they wanted to be given. She's trying to threaten. She's trying to sound a warning that if you try to come out again, I'm going to do away with you. She is a ruthless leader. She is a leader who does not deserve to be a leader who does not have the skills of a good leader, and therefore she's supposed to be taken out. Now, the point of the day is this one. Churches will be banned in Tanzania very soon. Why? Because it is a rule that is coming from the president. They're criticizing churches in Tanzania, saying that it is the churches that were funding demonstrations and funding people who were on the streets, even funding the opposition. And the question is, has it gotten to a matter that now we want to bring in religion and all that? SAMIA Suluhu Hassan, we know she is a Muslim. Her being a Muslim, criticizing churches is very low of her. And she's like trying to say churches are not needed in Tanzania no more. Is that going to be accepted? Is it now a religion war? That she wants to be a leader in Tanzania now that she's a Muslim, to lead only Muslims and all that? And that is why this AU chairman, what is his name? The AU chairman? Let me confirm. I'm forgetting the other name. Let me confirm. You see, the AU chairman is trying to. He is also a Muslim, and he's trying to. He came out, and when he came out. He said that elections were free and fair. He's called Mohamud. Mohamud came out and said that elections were free and fair in Tanzania. Mohamud is a Muslim. The only thing I've seen Mohamud doing recently, him speaking, Mohamud came out and spoke about what happened in Tanzania. And he said that elections in Tanzania were free and fair. That is number one. Number two, I've seen Mohamud talking about what was happening in Nigeria. And Mohamud said that Muslims are not, like Christians are not being killed in Nigeria. The people who are being killed in Nigeria at most are Muslims. You see, that he said that the immediate victims of Boko Haram are Muslims, not Christians. So he was trying to go against the sentiments of Donald Trump when Donald Trump was saying that Christians are being killed in Nigeria. So he came out, and the reason as why he came out is because he wanted to defend Muslims, not because he wanted to give a way forward as a chairman of a body that should be actually governing or leading the whole of Africa, the African Union. So he came out and boldly he said, immediate victims of Boko Haram are Muslims, not Christians. So he was trying to go against, to have a contrary opinion to what Donald Trump said. Also, the president of Nigeria stood out and said the Christians are not being killed in Nigeria. Remember, the president of Nigeria, he is a Muslim. So what is happening here is that Muslims are trying to protect themselves and try to blame other people, try to blame Christians on this matter. I don't think this should be actually a religion matter. This is a matter of every single person, everybody who is trying to fight for their rights. In Tanzania, even Muslims were on the road and they were killed by the police. They were also killed by the police. In the army of SAMIA Suluhu Hassan, we have Christians in those army who are soldiers, who are following the command of SAMIA Suluhu Hassan as the commander-in-chief. Are you getting my point? You coming out and criticizing churches for what is happening is very low of you as a leader. You shouldn't be doing that. Are you getting my point? So what I'm saying here, because Mahmoud, when he came out, he said that elections in Tanzania were free and fair. After a few minutes, like after a few hours, the AU, the commission, the African Union Commission, came out with a different report. They said elections in Tanzania were neither free or fair. So this is your chairman, the leader, the president of the African Union, so saying that elections were free and fair. Then the African Union Commission saying that the elections were not free and fair. Are you getting that? Which means Mahmoud gave his own sentiments from his own view, okay, to try and show out to the world her own, like his own friend, who is Samia Suluhu Hassan, who is also her religion mate, her fellow Muslim, his fellow Muslim. Are you getting my point? That she was able to make sure that elections in Tanzania were transparent, they were free and fair. So those were personal sentiments from Mahmoud himself, okay? But the commission, which comprises with many people, yeah, came out and said elections were neither free or fair in Tanzania. So the chairman and the commission having different views towards the elections in Tanzania. Are you getting my point now? Then, all of a sudden, we are seeing Samia Suluhu Hassan standing on podium and blaming churches for the chaos and for the post-elections violence in Tanzania. Does it even make sense? Does it sound something in your ears? Does it now sound a certain sense in your ears? Because tell me why churches would be involved, or churches should be blamed for the post-election violence, or churches should be blamed for the chaos that happened or for the killings that happened in Tanzania. Why does churches have to fund the chaos in Tanzania, or fund young boys, young men to fight in Tanzania? Why? That is the biggest question, and that is the elephant in the room. So Samia Suluhu Hassan is threatening to ban the churches in Tanzania. He is starting war with churches. And that is a very bad leadership coming out of Samia Suluhu Hassan. Yeah, a very bad leadership skills, a very bad leadership insight. Because what is going to happen in Tanzania next? It's going to be a religion war, where Muslims will now be fighting Christians, and Christians will be fighting Muslims. And I think that is something that is trying to be brought on the table. And this is what we've always been saying. We are beginning to fall into a trap of somebody who wants us to fight, the enemy who wants us to fight. Making chaos in Nigeria between Christians and between Muslims. Making chaos in Tanzania between Christians and Muslims. Okay? The African Union chairman, who is supposed to be part, or who is supposed to be a leader of the whole continent of Africa, protecting or siding with the Muslims. Are you getting my point? Siding with the Muslims and making the Christians feel like they're neglected. There's going to be war between Christians and Muslims, which is something we do not want to see. And if this one happens, they will say, now in Africa, we are having chaos and we are having problems between religions. Muslims and Christians are fighting in Africa. And then they will find a way of coming in and invade and do whatever the things they want to do. Do every single thing they want to do. Are you getting my point? The reason being religion fighting. It's a religion war in Africa. So they will try to come in and try to do it's like they want to bring peace in Africa. But in real sense, they will not be looking forward to bring peace in Africa, but chaos in Africa. That is the biggest thing that we are looking up to right now. Samia Suluhu Hassan needs to be very careful. He needs to look into this matter very carefully. He needs to think about what he wants to do very carefully before he does anything. Otherwise, he's going to mess the continent and the country of Tanzania and the continent of Africa. Start to blaming other religion because of what is happening. It is very, 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 very bad. And he needs to think about it. And before he does anything, he should think better. Because why are we beginning to see people from other religions, because they are leaders, trying to separate themselves from other people? Yeah? How many Christian leaders are in Africa? In Africa, we have many leaders who are Christians than Muslims in Africa today. If you walk in African countries, you're going to realize that African countries have got many Christian presidents than Muslim presidents in Africa today as we are talking. Now, let me ask you, if there's going to be war today, or if now we're going to have wars in Africa today. In fact, in Africa, The number of Christians in Africa compared to the number of Muslims in Africa the number of Christians in Africa is higher. You don't want, or you don't ever want to bring chaos between religions in Africa, or to try and broke the peace and try to bring religions war and religions fights in Africa. You need to be very careful when you want to do that. It's very dangerous. It is something we can never vouch for, something we will never want it to happen at all. Therefore, Samia Suluhu Hassan needs to be very careful before he starts criticizing churches and other religions for what has happened in Tanzania. You messed up, you misled people, you did wrong. You need to look into this matter and bring amendments and save the country yourself, because you have the capability to save your country. Calm down, give people their rights, accept for a new constitution to be programmed. That is the only way you can save your country. You talking about and criticizing other religions because of what is happening in Tanzania, that is very, very, very bad and needs to be stopped. It should never happen. Something that should never ever try to happen. Samia Suluhu Hassan needs to be very careful. Otherwise, he's going to bring a problem into the whole continent of Africa and even the chairman of the African Union. You trying to come out and defending other people, it is something that is very much unacceptable. You shouldn't be doing that. Nobody should be doing that. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll do my best to make sure I read all the comments and give a response where possible. I am the African Streamline Roundtable. Thanks for coming and thanks for always being here.